Hello friends and fellow seekers. Oh my goodness me. It just occurred to me that it is the second month of springtime. Well, springtime in my neck of the woods. But this year is, despite the trials and tribulations, challenges and restrictions, this year has flown by in a sense. And I thought, look, spring is my favourite time of the year. It's time to get up, wake up, shake up, reach out, communicate. Yes, start some dialogue again with you all. What a year it has been. And of course I owe you quite a meaty catch up, but I will save that for another day. But right now I was looking for an icebreaker, to be honest with you. And I thought, I've been spending a lot of time in my little sacred space and I have been changing things around yet again. And so why not share? So that is the objective of this video and I hope you enjoy. Some of you know this room is very, very small and it has its advantages and disadvantages. I would love it if the room was a little bigger because that would enable me to accommodate my crystal and Tibetan bowls in here, which I love dearly. That's the disadvantage. The advantage is I can't accumulate too many things because I must admit I do love home decor and plants, and goodness knows what I'd end up placing in this room if I had an opportunity, let alone decks. So first of all, you can see in front of you, well, let's just say I decided that I was going to make me a desk. My main priority was to use what I already have or repurpose any items that may be sitting dormant in my garage. The other objective was to rid myself, or at least relocate, should I say, a cupboard that I had on left of screen. And it took up most of this wall here. I never really liked that cupboard in here, but it did serve its purpose. I needed the storage for items that related to my healing business, which I've now just set aside for a little while. So I needed, as an example, a lot of fresh white towels because I was practicing body balance and stress release, cell balance, Reiki, so on and so forth. And so having a cupboard was very handy. It enabled me to also store some reference material, some office supplies, some tarot related goods, so on and so forth. Anyhow, I just didn't like it in here. And I just felt at the time there was nowhere else to place this particular cupboard. But since then, I decided to do yet another stocktake in my garage and I made space for this particular cupboard. So it's good to have it. And I was also able to move on quite a number of items that were in that cupboard, including those towels, which I donated. So it's a win-win situation, I guess. Can I just say quietly, I love my garage. It is my girl cave. It has a workbench. It has my gym. It's far more than a place to park my car. And it's also where I store a lot of items also. It's very, very handy because my home lacks storage. Anyhow, I found this piece of ply sitting there feeling lonely. It's actually left over from another home project that I attended to, and it's quite a decent size. And I thought, my goodness me. Now, I have Estopol in the garage, bingo, coat it to protect it. I have these supports, which I was going to sell and didn't get around to, and they are actually IKEA. Well, what would you call them? They are the interior office version of the carpenter's sawhorse. That's obviously where the whole idea came from. And they're so handy to have because you can basically, well, do what I do. You just need the two supports and grab a piece of wood and lay it on top. It doesn't move, it doesn't slip. And it's so easy just to dismantle it and move it on if you so need. And that was the whole point. I started to research desks and thought, what on earth are you doing, woman? I don't want a desk to look like a desk. Why would I buy a desk when it's highly likely in 12 months I'll want to change things around yet again and then that's something else I need to sell. So by just giving this a few coats of Estopol, it has protected it nicely, and I was happy. Other than to say, there were 2 gaps due to the size of this piece. 2 gaps on each side, about 3.5 inches. Was not keen on that. So I decided to get a little creative, found yet another piece of wood stored in my garage, cut it to length, cut a little corner so it would fit flush here, and there you have it. So obviously this is yet to be coated in Estopol. I will get to that. Now that the weather's getting nice and warm, I can attend to that quickly. But you can see here I just started a little garden. It has a few plants, a few crystals, and it just brightens up the corner. And I just like the idea of this particular desk running from one side to the other, because it does enable you to place something against the wall. So I'm pretty happy with it. And not only that, it also provided a little bit of storage area underneath, because I had to find something to prop that piece up with. And as it happens, these cubes I have had for many years, obviously to store books. And having changed things around in my home, I no longer have use for them, but I didn't want to part with them because they're just so user-friendly and so portable. And lo and behold, I do need a thicker book. As you can see, it's not quite flush. I know I'm such a genius, right? Just put a book under there and that'll do the job. But I think it does the job. So I just need a decent hardcover book that's a little thicker than that one. And you can see here I've stored some notebooks, some journals, and there's a little case in the corner there that just houses extra markers and highlighters, pens, pencils, etc. Down the bottom is a little basket that I picked up for $5 at a charity shop. And you can see there's still plenty of room. So in other words, these things here are items that I don't need on a weekly basis. So it's not like I'm crawling under the table every day, but they are items that I wish to keep. So I'm pretty pleased with the whole arrangement, because it didn't cost me anything. I was just using things that I already have. So the rest, well, I guess you could just say for me, it's aesthetically pleasing. They are just a few items that I do enjoy. One of my treasured possessions is this piece of citrine. This is natural citrine, and I do apologize, my camera is not so good with the close-ups, especially if you're moving from one item to the other, but I think you get the idea. This is a really beautiful piece. It's a sizable piece, and it sits atop a candle holder. Over here I just have a little shelter. Once again, this is a shelf that I already had that I was going to donate to charity, and cheeky me, I brought it inside because I had these little items representing the major elements, the primary elements, fire, earth, air, water, and they were just sitting out in the open, just here. But I don't know why, I just felt compelled to try this little shelf that I once had mounted on a wall, and it just, because it provides that little piece of shelter, I feel like it almost condenses the energy, which sounds so stupid and dolphins and fairies, I know. But for me, I don't know. I think it just captures my attention, and it encourages me to burn some sage, light a candle, honor the elements, you know, right across the board. Those little feathers are a donation from my little budgerigar. It's molting season right now, so I just chose to keep them. Anyway, that's the little elements corner. A few little items hanging here. I had these little wooden shelves. I had 6 of them. I donated 4 and just kept 2. And again, it's just a little gentle reminder, you know, about magic, thanks to Chris Ann. This card came with the Lightseers Tarot, but I love that. Magic resides here. Each side, the god and goddess, a little, well, it's a print, obviously, of 2 little figurines that I would love to have in person one day. And I just like these little boxes. But again, it's just representing my passion and love for runes, for tarot, for crystals. You can see a cheeky pair of skulls here. I named them Ari and Eva. And this beautiful little angel was gifted to me by a client quite some years ago. But for me, she is the female hermit, and I relate very closely to the hermit card. Now, I'll just show you quickly. I'm sorry again, just bear with me with the focus. Over here, I just created a little notice board. This stuff here is as cheap as chips. It's like a wire, but it's the flexible version that I think it's designed for young trees. You know, you place it around the young trees so the local, if you're in the country especially, the local animals can't come and eat it. And you can also, I guess, prop it up. But anyway, you can get different qualities of this stuff. And I wanted the good quality, which is very stiff. But I also found that it was far more expensive and very heavy. And I didn't want to be putting big old screws in the wall. So this works perfectly if anyone's interested in doing so. All I want to place, as you can see, are some cards, some messages, some quotes, whatever it be. And it's fully supported by this, well, this mesh, I guess you would call it. I have the first of, I plan on getting 5 crosses all up. I love crosses, I always have. Funnily enough, I used to buy them for other people, and now I've just, yeah, there's a local homewares shop that I love, and they always have the most beautiful crosses. So I recently acquired this one, and I'm just going to place them on this wall. I think 5 would be nice. All different colours. The cross that I'm hoping to get would be a colour like this, like a teal sort of colour next. I'd like also a small black one, and then a couple of really colourful crosses. Anyway, we'll see. And maybe one just natural wood would be nice. And then underneath this little notice board, as I call it, I've had these step shelves for a while. This is an original. Like, these were, when were they first created? It was either the 1950s or the 1960s. And every kid had one of these in their room. It's like for children's books. And, well, the kid in me fell in love when I found it in a used furniture shop. So I use it for my astrology textbooks, or those that I chose to keep anyway. I did another cull about a year ago, so I had another shelf spare, and you can see there are some decks in there. And down the bottom, a couple of mighty pieces. I really love these pieces of selenite. I've had them for some years. And that's a little piece of black tourmaline in the middle. So below those 2 little shelves I showed you before, I have this particular shelf that used to, in fact, support my television. I had another shelf, much the same length, different style altogether in this room, and I decided to swap them around. And it's funny how sometimes when you do these things, you wonder why I didn't think of this in the first place, because this is a far more efficient and user-friendly system than the other one that I had here. So yeah, I'm just glad that I decided to pull everything apart, give it a good old cleanse, by the way, which really helps, and just try a couple of different options. So I think this is going to stay here for quite some time. Good old-fashioned cubes. I mean, really, you can't beat them. So COVID and all this isolation, etc., did encourage me to have a stock take or 2. Like, I've had a few, and I've been donating for a long time as it is, but I just went further with it, and I found that there were a number of decks that needed to move on to a new home. And I found out of that I have space here to spread things out a little bit. That's just a little bit of a mess down there, but it's a number of decks, mainly older decks that are just sitting in bags. I think some of them will go. Definitely some of these will go. But anyway, my point is shelves like these here, these 2, just having a few decks where I can point them outwards, like forwards. And I feel that if those decks have room to breathe, I can breathe. So it really has been quite a cathartic experience. And you can see down here, this is my old formula. I had every cube full, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was nice and neat, spines facing out, easily accessible, efficient system. It's like a library. I loved it. I was a music librarian back in the day. So this worked for me for a long, long time. But I just think as time goes on, and, you know, I think we've all been shedding a skin or 2 this year. But for me personally, I've been going through this huge, mighty shift that is quite a process. It takes years to unfold. And I feel that every time I kick it up on my inner journey, it just so happens that I need to parallel that whole experience externally. Once you do the inner, the mirror is the outer, isn't it? So I think that's where that whole yearning comes from, to just pass things on. So I have no doubt that most of these decks here will go. I'm just doing it bit by bit. But anyway, you can see that's where I house, well, a great majority of decks, but not all of them. I'll show you the others in a moment. But this here is what I really wanted to feature for you today. I was inspired by Jen from Science to Soul Tarot with Jen. And of course, Simon from The Hermit's Cave has a very similar setup. They both have a beautiful wooden display. It's raked just like this. And when I saw theirs, I think Jen may have created hers first. I thought, now this is a lovely idea. And I actually used to have my altar here. This piece, that black triangle shelf, used to be here, and I used to draw cards and leave them on the shelf, and it's just not part of my practice anymore. I operate a little bit differently. And so I came up with an idea as to how I could make one for myself out of wood, and then I remembered, go into that box in the garage that's ready for the charity shop, because I remembered that I purchased this spice stand for my pantry, but it's a little bit too, oops, I'm so sorry, it's a little bit too deep this way. And so I decided just to donate it until I brought it in here. Ironically, I love the fact that this has no sides. You'll see on Jen's channel and also Simon's, there is, which is logical, of course, to have like a side and a little front here so the cards don't slip. But as it happens, this has a non-slip surface. And quite frankly, I love the fact that it's open. As long as the cards don't slip, I'm happy. And you can see that I chose to face the cards outwards rather than leaving the backings there, which is the logical thing to do, of course. But I just happened to, without even thinking, placing a few decks here, leave them outwards, and I really like it. So you have two options here. I can choose a card that really means something to me and leave it there, so every time I walk into this room I see it and I'm inspired by it. Or I could do, as an example, a weekly draw with each deck at the front and create a storyboard. If I choose to use those decks, well, it's very easy to remember the card that you drew, right? Use the deck, put the deck back, and leave that deck, or write it down in the journal. It doesn't really matter, but I just thought that's an option for me. So I'm really enjoying this. So these beautiful pieces of carnelian are just here to look pretty. It's not that the cards slip, just in case any of you are considering doing something like this. Another thing I'll point out is, obviously I can fit many more decks. I had 12 decks here originally, so that means I used this front row, but I just didn't feel it necessary to have, should I say, 12 decks out at once. That's just me, so you do whatever works for you. So I decided, because I am so colour obsessed, I mean, can you tell? Look at all these beautiful cards here. Yeah, I'm going through a real splash of colour phase. I should just add to that, I've always been a big fan of colour therapy, colour combination. I have a colour deck, and I made a colour deck also. So right now it's just, colour combination is an obsession. So I just decided to lay some delicious tumbled stones at the front. I mean, you could just eat them. And I really enjoy it. Every time I walk into the room, I just feel, oh, you feel that little jump inside your chest. I love it. So if I feel that, I presume I'm on the right track. So the system I had before, it worked for quite some time, but now it just, I don't need it. I prefer this setup. And I'll just show you quickly the Guardians. This is my crystal skull. His name is Truth. He's got a lovely, I'm so sorry about this focus. He's got a lovely rainbow situation going on there in his crown. Oh, come on, camera, seriously. There you go, that's better. And over the other side, his partner is Clarity, and I will get the focus back, bear with. There she is. She is a beauty. So beautiful and clear. That's just crazy. You can see the color of this card coming through. So I quite enjoy having them out. So there you have it. That is my current setup for, I'll call them my working decks. And I'll show you in just a moment where I keep the rest of my tarot decks. And here they are. Just as you walk into this tiny room, I have a little DVD shelf, which, yep, you guessed it. I had it out in the garage, ready to take to the charity shop because I no longer have DVDs. And then I decided, this could be a handy temporary setup for my standard size tarot decks, like standard boxes. And that was probably close to 2 years ago. I thought, well, what would I use instead? Buy something that's much the same when I have one. So you know I love repurposing things, and until further notice, this is the setup. And having had another clear out, when I am able to place some boxes facing outways like this, I get rather excited. Because of course there'll be new decks coming in next year that no doubt I will love. So I just wanted to make a little bit of room. So the decks that are going to be sold, they are in another cupboard at the moment. And here, just some rough cuts of a few different stones here, as you can see, primarily rose quartz, of course. And then this is just a whole selection of tumbled stones, which I've had for many years. You can see here on the side of the little DVD shelf, I placed some cards. These are actually the chakra cards from John Holland's Psychic Tarot. I made them square years ago, and I did use them as square cards for quite some time, but I just like them up there. I just think they're nice and bright. So that's that, and you can see there's another shelf. This is the last shelf that I'll show you because it's the last shelf in the room. Down here, well, it's the ground level, isn't it? So I put some petrified wood and a couple of heavy duty characters. That's my little Mayan buddy up the back. It's carved wood. I paid a whole 50 cents for that at a marketplace. This guy here, I named him Zorro. It would be lovely if Zorro was in focus. Oh, wow, he looks pretty scary. Sorry, I'll just put him there and get him in focus. I named him Zorro because he's got a little scar, as you can see, just above his eye. But I just wanted to show you him because he is blue tiger iron. You see blue tiger's eye often, but not tiger iron. Yes, he's pretty cool. So you don't mess with Zorro. But yes, some petrified wood. That's Charlie. And up here is Gypsy. They all have names. I want them all to have an identity, my crystal skulls. So that's that shelf. This one here I call my abundance shelf. It's a bit of a working shelf, a meditation shelf, an action shelf. And as you can see, there's a lot of gold in this area. Well, it is an abundance shelf after all. So I'm quite the floor dweller, and I really like this shelf just being at this height, and I can sit here cross-legged and contemplate so many things and initiate and action others. This is about, for me, connecting to self and acknowledging my personal power, because I think quite often I forget. I need to remind myself of my personal power, my ability to manifest, to create, to make changes, to support the process of shedding a skin and going through big personal shifts and knowing that it's okay, that I'll come out just fine, you know, on the other side. That when I put my mind to it, by setting intention, casting spells, I can make a difference. I can make a difference to my world and hopefully the world. So these little boxes here are for those very things, intention setting, spells, etc. And you can see here, I have a print of the Golden Chinese Emperor. I really like him. I mean, he certainly has a very decent sense of self and purpose. He's grounded, he's strong, he's focused. He knows who he is. And so I think that's just a wonderful reminder. I have a piece of pyrite here. As you know, they call it the Fool's Gold, but it's pretty special. And I'll bring over, I really love this piece, but I'll bring over Storm. This is my skull. He's also made out of pyrite. And I really I'm so sorry about the shaky camera work. I really like his crown. And, you know, he's the kind of guy that you just don't want to meet up with in a dark alley, right? If you were confronted by him and Zorro, you'd run the other way, quite frankly. Anyway, a few other little trinkets. I just have these beautiful mookaite tumbled stones because I love mookaite. And up the back is some orange calcite, just in this little gold tray that I've had. It's actually a candle holder that I've had for, again, I say it all the time, I've had this for so many years. And this little dish here I picked up at a retro shop. And you can see I've just placed a few items in here. It's all very symbolic. Some tiger's eye, black obsidian, citrine, and that is peridot. 3 Chinese coins. And here is my auntie's bracelet. My auntie was Spanish. That is Italian gold. And again, it's just all about abundance. You can see I've got some raw tiger's eye here and citrine here. Now, these dear, sweet little glasses. This is just something that touches my heart. So obviously you can see it's amber glass, but it has gold on it. And also the splash of colour I appreciate. But I just put a whole lot of items here that gold or represent gold, because for me, again, it's abundance, it's richness of life. But I also think of Leo being ruled by the sun, the golden sun. Leo rules your heart. And of course, intention setting, put your heart into it, put your heart into everything you do. It makes me feel passionate. Leo also rules, well, it is associated with passion. It is associated with taking risks and having fun. So I place these here, not just because of the colour, but there is, along with my auntie's bracelet, there is such a connection to my family. This is the Italian side of my family. And so I guess you could say, yeah, just a splash of ancestral energy really, I don't know, it helps me along when I'm sitting here setting intentions. It's like, know who you are and know where you're from. Remember your roots. For me, it's all so interconnected, even though you'd say roots in astrology would be 4th house. But I still feel a very strong connection to it here when I sit here. So those little glasses, for any of you who have a European connection, European ancestry, anyone who has a nonna, an avo, an oma, a yaya, a baba, you will understand, right? Because everyone's grandmother had in some shape or form, a set of these style glasses. This is from a little decanter set, but it was wine glasses or, you know, liqueur glasses or sherry glasses. The glass was amber or red or green or blue or all of the above. So it just warms my heart. And of course, as I said, Leo rules the heart by having these here, and it's just gold, you know, gold or anything associated with that warmth. So that's what this shelf is all about. It's really important to me. And it's funny, I didn't plan on doing this. It just seemed to happen, but I spend a lot of time here. I really do. So anyway, I'll speed it up for you now. This shelf here is, well, just a shelf. Nothing in particular. I'm just, again, attending to this splash of colour that I really feel compelled to work with at the moment. And just like the other side of the room, there's some little plants here. These are snippets of one of my succulents that I have outside in my garden. I just thought I'd bring them in and place them in some water. And you can see there's just a little array of crystals. And this shelf I actually put aside for Lenormand, because I like to do a 3 or a 5 card spread. Obviously, it's not going to be suitable for a grand tableau. But yeah, I tend to do the 3 to 5 card spreads more than anything. So that's that. And then the top shelf is, well, the family, the usual suspects. You would have seen this if you saw my grand tour of this very room, I don't know, 18 months ago or so. I can't even remember when I did it, but these guys were here. So more skulls and just an array of quartz in the center, a few pyramids. You can see there just a dash of Egypt and a couple of other cheeky skulls on this side. Most of these, if not all, have actually been with me for a very long time. Again, I'm so sorry about this camera. If I continue to do these tours, I'm going to have to get another camera. So anyway, that is that. And up on the top, this is my, what do you call it? Work in progress. It's all about color. So just combining a few things. And this is all about, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, using what I have. So no new purchases here, but I'm just going to add a few bits and pieces. Again, you can see my Italian heritage right there, but it's just about color combination. This black box is actually storage. And then this chap at the top here, my mother made him years ago, and he had a partner, a female, but I didn't feel compelled to keep her, so I gave her to the charity shop, but I really like this guy. So he was actually on my altar up until very recently. And I like the fact that he has his book of knowledge, as I call it. And he reminds me to do so many things. Study, read, journal, sit quietly, contemplate, meditate. So I like the fact that he's up there looking down on the room and just supervising. So there it is, my friends. This is my sacred space. I'll try and step back a little bit and show you the long shot before I go. And it would be really nice if it was in focus for you. So don't worry, you don't need glasses. It's just my mobile phone struggling to keep up. But I hope you enjoyed this little tour. It is what it is, and I'm sure in the not too distant future I'll be telling you that I've changed it again, because I know my personal changes are far from over. But shedding this skin has been one of the most profound experiences of my life. It started with the tower, it'll be close to 3 years ago now. It is ongoing, it is a process, and honestly, I welcome every moment of it. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I'm always apologizing for my long drawn out hiatuses. So if you have returned, I really appreciate you, and I hope you're well despite the challenges we've all been going through, some certainly more than others this year. But please stay well, be well, and I hope you're happy. I really do. I hope you're feeling happier and more content as we at least have a bit of a breakthrough with COVID and all that kind of gizmo. So we'll save all the serious talk for another time. But again, thank you so much. All the very best. I'll talk to you soon.